All right, welcome everyone to the Warriors Way podcast. Today, I'm going to let my guest introduce himself. We're excited to kind of dive into his story and see how we can be motivating and provide some exciting works from his perspective. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, my name is George V. Gonzalez. I am a published author. I am also an inventor, and I'm also currently a real estate agent. The real estate agent is what pays my bills and what actually funds my projects. So that is who I am. And I am excited to be on this podcast, and hopefully we can have some fun together.
Yeah, heck yeah. I mean, that's, I wish we had recorded that first one that we had on Instagram a while ago, but they don't have a feature to record it because I think that went on for probably longer than what this one's going to be.
Yeah, I
But,
mean, we definitely talked about a lot of stuff, and I think we talked about a lot of juicy stuff. So hopefully we can
Oh,
get
yeah.
some of that stuff back on this one. So
Yeah, I agree. So realtor by day that pays your bills.
Yep.
What inspired you to follow that journey into the real estate?
well, real estate, I've always had like this passion for it, not realizing why I had it. But the way I got into real estate is I actually had on the job accident that actually I was in a job, a career job that it took me 20 years to get into that job. And about 12 months into that project, I got hurt. And when I heard I could no longer lift, the 50 pounds that are requirement within that industry of warehouse distribution and logistics. So I was disabled. And after my doctor released me, I was like, what the heck am I going to do now? I can't go back into the kind of job that I've had before, which I was there for 20 some plus years in middle management and then management at some point. And I heard this little whisper, real estate. And I'm like, real estate? Okay. So I started doing some research about getting your license and stuff like that. And and the reason I was really passionate about real estate was because my grandfather was a landowner. He came to the United States under the Bracero program, back in World War II. And when he was working here and he was sending money back home, and he was buying plots of land in Mexico. So he had a lot of land. And then my father, he was a handyman when I was like 12 or 14 years old. And I was helping my dad doing kitchen and bathroom remodels. So I had like that experience of real estate. And the fact that I got hurt just pushed me into becoming a real estate. And because I had that knowledge of already somewhat of a real estate on the investing side, the flipping side, and the rehab side, I thought this would be a perfect fit for me, which it has been, because that's how I was able to push my projects forward. Like I said, the invention and whatnot, and the book, because of my real estate, because that's what pays the bills and funds my projects. So that's how I got involved with it.
Yeah, I think that's cool though, having that double-edged sword. So building something versus just selling something and
Correct.
having like both sides of that. Like I think it's so crucial, especially because you know ins and outs that like buyers are going to ask you questions,
Correct.
and like you can look in between the walls where like some realtors may not be able to, because all they know is their skit and their sales pitch, and that's like go about it. So that's pretty cool.
And,
I
and
think.
that was something that I thought that like I said, I thought I could bring to the table, because when I meet with a client and I take them to see a property that they want to purchase, I make them stand in the front of the house in the street. And then I ask them, what do you see here? And I
Right.
make them focus on the outside shell of the property, the windows, the stucco, the ceiling, as far as the roofing is concerned. And then we look at those conditions and see if there's going to be any additional money that's going to be needed within the next 3 to 5 years, because they have to take account of that if that is the case. And then we move on to the inside of the property, and we look at the same thing: kitchen, bathrooms, floorings, underneath sinks, how do the countertops look, the roofs, the walls. Is this gonna be a rehab project, or is this gonna be a project that it's livable and we can be here for 10, 20 years and not really do anything to it? So that's what I was able to bring to the table when I got into real estate, which is why I've been successful, because of that reason.
No, that's good. It's like sometimes I view that stuff as like some people throw pretty pictures on a wall, but their foundation's broken. It's like in order to have a good place to be like mentally, like your foundation's got to be set first before we start adding all the pretty foo-foo stuff.
I expose the ugly parts if there is any,
Right.
and if I scare them to a point like, George, this needs too much work, great, this is not the property for you. Because
Yep.
if we close escrow on this property, you're gonna call me in 3 months, George, you know what? I have the money to rehab the property. It's like, okay, well, let me show you the ugly part first
No,
to
absolutely.
avoid those kind of conversations. And this is how I was able to get referrals, because people trust me, because I'm not about a sale. I'm about, man, George took care of me. So that's how I do my business.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. All right, so let's get into the juiciness, because I think this is where we thrive. All right, so you're an author of a book.
Correct.
It's called Answer the Call. I've read it. It's a really good book, and I kind of like the way it's set up, especially because it's not super long, and like the attention span of people today, it's hard to want to get them to actually get through 20 pages and want to stay motivated to do more. Whereas something like what you have, you can read over and over again a couple times, which is pleasant, and it's good for the small attention span that I feel like is a zombie apocalypse these days, and I'm just guilty of it, as a lot of people are. So if you had to preface, answer the call to the people watching this, what is this book? Also, what inspired you to write that book, and why is it so important to you to get it in front of other people?
Okay. First of all, the reason that this project and this book is very, very important is because the name itself of Answer That Call. I'm going to get into what motivated me to write it, but I'm going to tell you exactly what that means. Now,
Okay.
When I was writing the book, and we actually were getting close to finishing the book, I was going to call the book American Inventor. That's what I was going to call the book, which is actually one of the chapters in the book.
Right.
But as I was talking to my publicist, I heard this whisper that said, answer the call. And I'm like, answer the call? And then my publicist said, what is that? And I was like, that's the name of the book. Where did you get that from? It was just whispered to me. Great, we're going with that. Scrap American Inventor, we're going with Answer the Call. This is amazing freaking title.
Yeah.
And we went with it. Now, as far as the message of Answer the Call itself, Answer the Call is about finally, all of us, me, you, everybody else, it's time to look at our gifts, look at our talents, and our life's purpose. And what is that? If there was anywhere a time to look into those aspects of our lives, it is right now. Because why? The world is so ugly, right? There are people that may read the title and might get inspired just by the title. There's going to be people that are going to listen to this message and they're going to be inspired by this message, right? God gave us all a gift. He gave us all a talent, and he gave us all our life purpose. He didn't give us that to discard it. He didn't give us that for us to take it to the grave with us. He gave us that to fully implement it and to find that. Because ultimately, that's where we're going to find our full happiness. Right? I'm an author. I'm getting into public speaking now. So I'm motivating, inspiring lives, right? I invented the batting machine. So these are my gifts and my talents. I mean, just imagine how many lives I'm going to change on the kids side, just the kids and the youth by the batting machine. I'm going to change lives. These are all God's kids. They're all God's children. And these kids are our future. These are going to be our next musicians, our next poets, doctors, lawyers, the next person that's going to innovate and create something that's going to protectively heal us, protect us, right? They're our future. So we have to make sure that we use our talents and our gifts so we can groom the future. And then they're going to take it on the next generation. This is our job. So that's right. The message of Answer the Call is utilizing our gifts, our talents, and finding our life's purpose. That's what that means.
I love how you can speak so fluently about it too. Like I'm over here, like we've talked about this before, like I'm a big writer rather than public speaking kind of thing. But when you hit on that, I think hammer on the nail is like the fact that what we're giving to our kids, and even I feel like a 12-year-old could read your book, to be honest. They may not understand all of it, but I feel like it's compelling enough that they could get the gist of it.
Yeah.
But there's one part of your book that I really love that we talked about before too. That was like the generational disconnect thing. It's like learning um, essentially how easy it is to get away from what was built simply because we all feel like we need our own identity now. And there's definitely merit to that, 100%. Um, but I feel like because you were talking about like your dad and your grandfather and then your daughter, um, like how easy is it for your daughter to know everything that your father and grandfather went through, and how can you convey that? How can you like give proof of that hard work and grind and ethic that they didn't have a chance but to have? And like a lot of that is so hard to comprehend unless you're there in it. Um, so like kind of talk about that a little bit. It's like that disconnect that you wrote in there that you want to preserve was like kind of what your point was. You really wanted to preserve this so you knew and your daughter knew exactly why the family tree is so important and what have you.
Yeah. Well, well, the book in itself, I mean, and it's funny because when I talk about the chapters and the way I wrote it, I really wrote the book for my children. I wrote the
Yeah,
big book for my children's children, for my bloodline. You know, my daughter has the opportunity and had the opportunity, obviously, to meet me, to meet my father, even though it was only for like 4 years because he passed away very young. But she was also able to meet my grandfather. Now, and based off of her meeting my grandfather and the stories that I talk about my grandfather to my daughter, and then I talk about my dad to my daughter, I wanted to make sure that she knows where her family comes from. Because ultimately, my grandfather's decision to come here to the United States under this Bracero program, which is a work agreement between Mexico and the United States during World War II, that to me was very motivating to me. And I wanted to make sure that my daughter knew about this sacrifice because it was a major sacrifice. I mean, you're leaving your home country in the middle of a war. I mean, that's pretty damn scary. I mean, I don't know if I can do that. Leave my child to go to, you know what I mean? I don't know if I could do that. So I wanted to make sure that my daughter understood that sacrifice and how dearly it is to me. I wanted to make sure, and I couldn't force it on her, but express my gratitude and express my empathy and my love and compassion to that sacrifice, that way she knew it. But I also wanted her to have a conversation with her kids, my grandchildren, in the future sometime, where she could say, "Our your great grandfather did this. Now, how can we not take advantage of that sacrifice? Because if it
right.
wasn't for him, and be here." So if for whatever reason their life is not squared up and they're going into a different direction, maybe with that conversation and that story, we can pull him back in and say, "Oh my God, my great grandfather did this for me. I have to honor what he did." So that's why I wrote it in the way I wrote the book, as far as the stories from the beginning to the end. I talked about him first, then about my father figures, then about myself, my daughter, and then the collective of all of us. That's why I
Right.
did it that way. And I try to simplify it as much as possible because I would see like a squirrel, right? And I'll lose
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
We all do that, you
Yep.
know. So I had to be really careful not to make it too big, too thick, too many words. I would rather have conversations like this, and people can learn from this, because a lot of us are more visual and more like in the trenches kind of learning kind of thing. So that's why I
Absolutely.
did it that way.
So how would you, I guess, how would you say that's transcended this far, like with your daughter and learning from what your father and grandfather built and everything? Because like I always have this, it's almost like an equation that grit plus fortitude equals gratitude. So I mean, the grit and fortitude of like you and your father and stuff that you guys went through to learn what you've learned, how can you transcend that into gratitude unto your daughter, I guess? So like how was that relationship formed over this whole thing?
I was raised on a very tight niche family. You know, my grandfather and my parents and my uncles, they were really tight. So
Good.
I saw that love firsthand growing up. My family wasn't perfect. My family, thinking back now, I was the last couple of years, my family, they were all alcoholics, you know, but they weren't violent alcoholics, but they were still alcoholics.
Yeah.
So they weren't perfect, but I try to capture the positive things of what I learned: hard work, sacrifice, take care of one's family, right? And try to do good for our family, right? That's what I showed my daughter, and I taught her that. And I kept telling her stories all the time. And I always would bring her around with my family: mom, dad, grandfather, great grandfather, everybody. I brought her always around because I wanted her to meet them, because I realized that she was very, very observant. And I can only uh, talk so many stories, but she had to live them herself. And by her being exposed to it in the middle, she was able to learn a lot more than what I could have taught her. And now she's very family oriented. She loves the culture. She loves the music. She loves the food. And when she's out and she can support a small business or a small mom and pop shop, a taco place in the street, she'll go and she'll buy tacos in the street. She doesn't have to go to the fancy restaurants all the time. So I was able to teach her that culture part of it. And I think it's important,
Big.
because we are not better than them. We are all a family, collectively, all of us,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. And I know it's hard, especially like your daughter probably sees this a little closer to like what I do, since I'm a little bit younger. So I see like a lot of that 18 to 25 range, and kind of like how they manipulate your days and go about society and live their lives and what have you. And like I try to be as empathetic as possible and talk about it. Sometimes I get a little raw and it turns people the wrong way. But yeah, it's great that she does that, because a lot of people, they're like, oh my god, you got to go to this restaurant because it's fancy and it'll look better on the computer. It'll look better when you're taking pictures of your phone and put it on Instagram, Facebook, and what have you. But and like I posted this on, you may have saw it, but we have a place in Ohio called Barrio and Chipotle, and you know what
Yeah.
Chipotle is. So I wrote on there, it's like, you really can't trust people who go to those two places and call it Mexican when it's not. When there's hundreds of authentic Mexican restaurants around, and it's like, I feel like that's an internal approach, because they see the branding that these companies place on their businesses all the time, and they just naturally go that way because there's hype and trendiness. But like your daughter or you or like I would be like, yeah, no, let's go to this place that's actually real. Let's validate some authenticity here. um,
Yeah.
so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's
What you just said is psychological programming, bro.
big time.
Psychological programming, and again, the way I raised my daughter is I didn't push my ideas on her. I let her, since she was a small baby,
Yeah,
I wanted her own personality to come out, because that's who I wanted to deal with. I wanted to deal with the real of my child, her real spirit, her real soul, her real identity. That's who I wanted to deal with, not the fake person that I wanted her to become. No.
right.
And then when she was older, she was going to become something different. No, who is my daughter really? Who is she? How does she think? How does she see the world? What is her thought process or whatnot? Her mindset?
Yeah,
What is that? She's 23. She's taking business marketing in Long Beach University. She's got her last year. She's over there for last year.
nice.
So that's the mentality that she created on her own. I mean, yeah, she saw certain things that I was doing, and the audiobooks that I was listening to and the books that I was reading, but I didn't force them on her. She just saw that. But she also saw that from other individuals too. She just happened, oh my dad, this is interesting. Dad,
Yeah,
have you read this book? Oh no, I haven't read that book. Let me pick it up. So we're actually going back and forth. Have we read these books back and forth? Because she is her own individual.
yeah,
And she is not the type of person that cares what other people think,
good.
you know, as neither am I.
Oh,
I'll
absolutely.
take my day to eat tacos or hot dogs or versus taking them to a fancy restaurant. Because if she doesn't want to hold a greasy cheeseburger, right, or a hot dog, or I mean, a Dodger dog or a stadium dog, right, baseball dog, I mean, this is not the person that you want to be with, because they
Right.
want to be all fancy and stuff. I could do the fancy stuff too,
Yeah,
but it's not always
absolutely.
called. It's not always called for that.
Yep.
Can't take shrimp to the beach. You know what I mean? You can take a cheeseburger and a hot dog or a freaking Subway or something to the beach.
Right.
Get your
That's
nails
what,
dirty. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. I feel like the dirtier you get, the more you learn in ways that you can't talk about. And it sounds so simple, but like today it's really not. I mean, everyone thinks they know everything because it's right there on their fingertips. They can Google it. They can just ask one of their friends real quick who's in the same boat as them and really haven't gotten dirty doing these things, or they weren't forced at a young age to mature and become of their own and think by themselves. Because like a lot of people today, like if we could teach them how to deprogram their minds and teach them how to think for themselves, like this world would be an entirely different place.
Bro, you just nailed it, man. You just fucking nailed
Entirely
it.
different place.
Yeah. The thing is that these people, everybody out there, most of them, a lot of them, sadly, they are following
Yeah.
other people's ideas and not their own, because they're afraid that their idea might be too crazy. Right. I saw a post today on Instagram from Gary Vaynerchuk. Actually, it was a video, and he said that he closed his mind in high school to prevent the information that they were giving him, because he felt that it was affecting his way of thinking. And I'm like, I felt the same way, and I thought I was crazy for doing that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to learn what they were teaching me, because it just didn't. I didn't. It just didn't click to me. It didn't. I didn't care for it. But I'm glad I did that. And when Gary said that today in the video that I saw, wow, there's a lot of us out there the same way.
Absolutely.
And those are the self-thinkers, and those are the leaders, and these are the people like you, I, and Gary, and all these other people trying to let people know and understand that it's your mind that's important here. What do you think? Not what everybody else thinks. What do you think, and what do you want to do?
Yeah. And it's so hard to break those chains too, because like the way society is built as an entirety is around these socialized ideas that people they're hiding from. They're closing their heads off to it. Or we should, but we don't, because society is like telling us, like, if you don't do this, like you're never going to succeed. You're never going to be of value. You're never going to provide anything beneficial for yourself or other people or whatnot. But yeah, I think that's such a crucial thing. And like, how do we bridge that gap into giving that to our kids, that ability to close off during those days? Because like I'm back in my Kanye state of mind, that I call it, because everyone thinks Kanye is crazy, but he's a freaking brilliant genius. So it's like, how do you convey that and get people to, I guess, accept it and bring it to their own? Because usually we have to piss those people off before we set that part free. And that's
There's
such a bitter bridge, I think.
there's two things here. One thing is that sooner or later, everybody gets punched in the gut or punched in the face, and that force is going to trigger something like, oh my God, this ain't working. I keep getting punched in the face all the time. So then they go internally, and then they start fixing things. But unfortunately, by that time, they might have passed 20, 30, or 40 years.
Yeah.
What could you have done before that? Now, on the flip side, it's all how we raise our children, right? Like, my daughter is not the oldest child in my family. I have other nieces and nephews, right? I saw how they were being raised, and I didn't agree how they were raised, but they were not my kids. So I made a commitment to myself that when I had a child, I was going to raise them a certain way, that they had to earn their way, right? And I wasn't going to give them anything that they didn't earn, because this whole concept of gimme, 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 gimme. No, I didn't want to raise my daughter that way. So I started giving her allowance when she was 2 years old, 2 or 3 years old, just to clean up a room. I would give her like $1 or $2 every Sunday. And then she was always with me and her mom. So we were always obviously buying her stuff and whatnot. She wasn't using her money on the things that they were necessities. But when it came to I want, when she said I want, that means you need to use your money, because that's an I want. That's not an I need. So that's how I raised my daughter. But sadly, I didn't see my nieces and nephews being raised that same way, or other children of cousins and family members. They weren't being raised that way. They were just giving stuff. So they felt, they enabled them to believe that everything was going to be handed to them. Well, finally, when they reached a certain age where they should have worked and they didn't work, because when they wanted to work, they didn't want to let them work. And the day they wanted their kids to work, the kids didn't want to work anymore. Yep. Well, you never wanted me to work. Why should I work now? But you said I shouldn't. Now I should, but I'm still in school. I'm still in college. I'm still in high school. What do you mean? God forbid you mention, well, so-and-so is, why you got to mention a name, right?
Yeah.
So I was very careful how I raised it that way. But I think a lot of people don't understand the potential damage that we could do to our kids by always give them something. My daughter wanted a cell phone when she was 7, because all her classmates had one. And I asked her a question. Are you not always with me? Yeah. Are you not always with your mom? Yeah. Then why do you need a phone? You can always borrow my phone, borrow your mom's phone to call us. So why would you need a phone? Why would you think you would need that? I drop you off at school. I pick you up. We're never disconnected here. There is no need one. The day I cannot longer take you to school and pick you up, then I'm going to consider this option, because I need to know where you're at.
Yeah, man, that's one thing that just it irks me so much. When,
bro,
like,
she didn't get one until she was 13.
Yeah, that's good.
See that?
Yeah, that's good. Like, but it just irks me so much. And I'm not a parent, but I'm a very receiving person, and I watch and observe everything that like other parents do, things that my parents did and what have you. And like, to just throw the kids to a corner with like a tablet, it's just like, part of me wants to grab that parent and like throw him against a wall, and then the other side just wants to take the kid. And it's like, how do you, and I know they're conditioned that way, so that's just conditioning being passed on to another generation. But like, that grinds my gears so much. I just had to interrupt that for a second, because I hope that some parents will see this, and something will activate, and they'll get that punch in the gut to be like, all right, maybe my kids need my attention, and they need a piece of my soul, versus just blue lines popping up that, hey, can you come upstairs? Hey, can you go downstairs? I mean, like, even that communication is very disruptive, I think, as far as person to person, parent to kid, regardless who it is. Like, if you're in such a close proximity and you're still like texting each other, man, just like, I get it sometimes, but for the most part, it's like there's such a void now that we've lost scope of how we should interact with people. And I'm just guilty. But I mean, I think it's very intriguing, and I hope that parents see this or hear from another source and can somehow transcend that into saving the kids.
Well, I personally don't believe that a 2-year-old should have a cell phone or an iPad. You know, the enjoyment that I got, and the enjoyment that I saw on my daughter's face when I used to take her to the park at 2 years old, 3 years old, 4-year-old, rolling over on the dirt, going down the slide, me pushing her to swing. You cannot duplicate that with a damn cell phone or an iPad. You know, I try to give my daughter the most happiest possible childhood that I can possibly give her. Take her to Chuck E. Cheese, take her to theme parks, have fun, be goofy with her, be silly with her. I want her to have that.
Right.
you know. And one of the main reasons that I wanted to do that also is because I don't remember my dad's childhood, bro. I remember like 5 things about my childhood between the ages of, I don't know, 2 to 5-ish, 7-ish years old. 5. I remember on a little tricycle, and I remember standing on the grass, but I don't remember like a lot of things in my childhood. But a lot of those things are because of freaking childhood freaking traumas.
Yep.
Like just the other day, bro, I was trying
Well,
to
that's huge.
I was trying to think back and really dig up some of my childhood memories. I'm like, why the hell can I remember this? Why can I remember things? And then I remembered this in my hand. I don't know if you can see that. There's a huge ass scar right there. See
Yep,
that?
I can see it. Yep.
Huge ass scar right there. This happened when I was between the ages of 2 and 4 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I do remember this. There was a glass, a wooden frame door with glass in the middle parts of the door. So this was a front door. It was laid over a hole in the backyard where my parents used to live at, where we used to live at. They were renting back then in this low income development, right? And I fell. I don't remember falling in through the window because I was walking, I guess, around it. And I can't remember this. I was walking around it and I slipped, I fell, and I broke, and I fell into it, and I cut myself. Do you imagine how much blood I must have lost there? And how traumatizing that must have been as a 2 to 4 year old?
Oh, absolutely.
No wonder I can't remember shit. That was
Yeah.
so freaking traumatizing. So I must have blocked that entire scenario and the entire event because it was so damn traumatizing. But that means that it also erased and blocked off a lot of my childhood things that potentially would be something worth remembering.
Yeah.
So every
That's
time somebody goes through like a major trauma of anything, even as adults, as children, as teenagers, and whatnot, we tend to block out a lot of before and a lot of after that that traumatic event. And if you read my book, I've gone through a lot of shit, bro.
yeah.
So just imagine how many things are now hidden that I can no longer remember.
Wow, that's powerful to
So
even think about that.
so this is a reason, like again, this is a reason why I raised my daughter a certain way to protect her and to avoid life traumas can potentially block off or erase things that she really should remember and really enjoy and share to her kids and maybe us as a conversation.
Yeah, it's like mind blowing because like I'm sitting here thinking like trying to recollect my childhood on a grand scale and it's like wow, you know what?
Doesn't that make sense though, bro?
Yeah, it's like and when that happens, like when you have some trauma stuff kind of like you and I may have, it's like wow, how much of that content was very crucial, but there's no way for us to comprehend it because we were too
Correct.
busy trying to survive,
Correct.
even though we didn't know that's what we were doing,
Correct.
and we were too busy just trying to be kids and just
Yeah.
doing what kids do. And now, holy yeah, we're sitting here like, holy
Bro,
smokes, you know what?
imagine this, bro. Imagine this. Somebody today, or just not too long ago, a couple months, couple years back, hurt you in such a way, right, that it did that to you, right? You hated this individual almost to death. A lot of us get there.
Yeah.
Then you bump into this individual and you're like, I don't even remember what the hell they did to me. And they apologize. And you know what? I'm sorry how I treated you. I'm like, don't forget about it. I don't even remember that anymore. If you don't remember that event that was so freaking painful, how the hell can you not remember?
Right.
But not only that, how much did it affect that you don't even remember that damn event? Do you remember your mom cooking you your favorite meal the month before that? And then she passed away in between those time frames. And now you don't remember that final meal that your mom made for you that you love so much. Or afterwards, a special moment that you might not have remembered because this event happened in the middle of it. The reason I say that because it's happened to me and it's happened to my mom, that I'll bring up certain things and she doesn't remember. Because my grandfather died within that time frame, my father died within that time frame, and my grandma died within those time frames. So she doesn't remember what we experienced as a moment.
That's crazy.
We have to protect ourselves and our loved ones for traumatizing events, bro.
I feel like what, yeah, yeah, that's huge. And like, what if we 180 that too? So like the people causing the trauma, like I think this is where it gets like pretty super deep and spiderwebby as far as psychology goes. So like these people causing the trauma, one, I mean, it's conditioning. Has to be a lot of that. It's like they don't realize what they're putting like a kid through. They're not going to realize that one day they're going to be sitting in front of a camera saying this to someone else who's kind of like on the same galactic dimension of conversation. So I think that's crucial. Is like understanding in their perspective too, because like even for me, like I'm trying to reflect back now and think about like where that missing link was, because I mean I can't recollect a lot of that childhood now. I can't, and like now looking at the lack of relationships or relationships like my parents, I don't know. Like that's I think it's so situational too, because a lot of families are different, but I think there's a lot of principles that can be applied through all of it. Um, but I think also a lot of the ones causing the pain were either from pain or at the same time they could also have been the ones on their phones the whole time because they can't see the reality from a full spectrum. So like now what? So now you're facing like two demons on both sides. It's like how do you battle that? I know you've talked about different kind of mental battles and stuff too, like in your book and even through the last time we talked. But I feel like that's such a I don't know if there's an equation in the psychologist world or in counseling situations and people who do that every day, but like how do you bridge that gap? Because that's got to be tough. I mean, I don't have a kid yet, but like if it'll ever happen, I don't know. But like if I can help other people with kids, like through these podcasts and through these videos and stuff, it's like what do you tell them to watch out for? It's like triggers and what have you. So this kid doesn't become an emotional ball of trauma like you or I have to break through and try to overcome, even though we didn't even know we went through it until our older years, unfortunately. But,
You know, I mean, unfortunately, there is no perfect way to raise a child. There is no
right.
perfect book. People talk about their points of view and stuff like that. I'm sharing my points of view and the things that I was able to pick up and whatnot. But one thing is for certain that we have to protect our children from traumatic events and their environments. What are they being exposed to? And are these environments uh, making them think that that is okay? Is it okay
Yeah.
to mistreat people? Is it okay to lie to people, steal from people, hurt people? Is that okay? No, it's not okay. But if you think it's okay, they're going to think it's okay. So we also have to go internally with us. And is there anything that, first of all, I need to heal before I have a child? Because that shit passes on to them too.
Big time.
Those traumatizing things, those unhealed traumas go down in their DNA. This is proven medically, you know. So we have to make sure that we're aware of that and protect them from that, and raise them in a way where we show them good things, love, compassion, empathy, and stuff like that, and also how to be strong too. and be self-reliant and sufficient and work for your own things, and not because things are not going to be handed to you. You can't depend on anybody. And I talk about this in the book that I raised my daughter where she didn't depend on me or her mom or anybody for that matter. You know, I try to give her some money for her last year of university. She said, Dad, I don't want your money. Because when I'm here, I'm going to say that I put myself through school. My daddy didn't pay for it. My mommy didn't pay for it. I got other people talking shit that my daddy gives me everything. And that's not true. It's like, of course it's not. I've never given you anything. You've earned it.
Right.
But she's got friends telling her that, oh yeah, you're daddy's little girl. It's like, oh, well, I'm not. I'm not daddy's little girl. Yeah, my dad loves me and he's overprotective. Yes. But he doesn't just give me stuff. I've earned it. And everything that I have in my room right now in Long Beach, I bought all this stuff. Everything that I have, my computer, my phone, everything, she pays for it. She pays for her own cell phone bill. She pays for everything. So people are telling her that I'm the one that's supporting her, and that's not true.
Yeah, I feel like that's just smoke and mirrors of like social media, though. I mean, they're probably
Yeah.
just assuming it from what they see on their phones
Yeah. Yeah.
for the most part. I mean, they don't know. They probably never even met you, half of them that are thinking that.
Yeah. But before we move on from this, I want to make it really, really, really clear, and that way it's very understood. We have to protect the people that we care about from dramatic events, especially our children. We have to. And we have to make sure that we're very careful of what environment they grew up in. We have to be very careful. And if for whatever reason we end up in an environment where it's not as safe, we have to keep our eyes and ears open, man. And we have to talk to our kids. How was your day? How was school? Let me see your work. How can I help you? Maybe we actually learned some stuff, you know, but we have to be so fully engaged in their life from the beginning all the way to we're gone.
Yeah.
Because they didn't ask to be here. We brought them here. You know, I mean, my daughter's going to be my baby until the day I'm gone. You know, and I'm going to tell her, and this is another thing too, tell your kids that you love them. Hug them, right? Be silly with them. Have fun with them. When I dropped off my daughter in university, she gave me a big hug. And she told me, Daddy, you are my best friend. My mom is my best friend. How many kids tell their parents that they are their best friends?
Yeah.
My mom was not my best friend.
Same.
I'm closer to my mom now than I ever was, and I can say she's kind of my best friend, but she's not my best friend. I love her dearly, and I do anything for my mom. But for your own child to tell you that you're their best friend, you know you're doing something right. And this I have not heard from other parents that I know. I've never heard them say that. I never heard the kids say that. My daughter openly says it.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And I think like the whole love part, and it's a whole concept. It's a touch, feel, see, the whole bit in one of those things. And like I never got a ton of that as a kid with the broken home family situation and whatnot. So and that I've noticed it transcend into my life and how like I form relationships. It's like I'm fight or flight mode like a lot of times when people were really close to me, because one, I was never used to like touch and what have you. So like there was never hugs and like kisses and all that stuff to the extreme of like a lot of families. So now I'm just like mad squirrel mode. Like, what are you doing next to me? Why are you coming up on me like that? And it's like constant adrenaline.
A lot of us were raised that way, bro. I wasn't like that either.
Yeah.
My mom, as I was getting closer past my teens, there was times that my mom would try to caress me. Like, hey, baby, and this and that, like, or honey, mijo, this and that. And I was like, what was that? But when I get into relationships, I've realized that I do need that.
Yeah.
Is what I realized. I want my girl to touch me and grab me and touch my hands and stuff like that. Hold my, I want that.
Right.
So when I raised my daughter, I used to hug her all the time. I used to play with her hair. I used to do her hair. I used to clothe her and stuff like that. I did a lot of cool stuff for my daughter, you know, and her mom didn't though. Her mom wasn't
Yeah.
that affectionate type, but I was, you know. So when she sees my mom and her other grandma and her other aunts, she'll give them a hug and give them a kiss. Well, that's not something that we were raised like. But she does that because I raised her that way. Every time you see grandma, I would, because by the time my daughter was born, I was starting to get more closer. And it's funny because when you become a parent, you really become a son when you become a parent.
Yeah, that's huge.
I had heard that before, but I'm
I
like,
see that.
but really, when
Yeah.
that happened, I was like, now I appreciate my parents more now that I'm a father. So I would talk about my things with my dad, even though it was a short period of time. You know, it was only like 4 or 5 years from the time my daughter was born to my dad passed away, but I got closer to him and I saw my dad differently, you know, and I was able to kid around with certain things. I used to give him a hug for his birthday, which before I didn't give him a hug for his birthday. But now I was giving him hugs man to man. Hey, dad,
Right.
happy birthday. Love you. So what? I love you, dad. He's never heard that from me either.
Yeah. And isn't it crazy how like it feels
So that was
right?
emotional for him. That was emotional for him too.
I guarantee it. Yeah.
But he used to tell my daughter, I love you. My daughter, my dad used to take care of my daughter. This is when I was working and as a manager, and me and my ex-wife used to work different shifts. So my dad used to take care of my daughter, and she was a baby, and I used to hear my dad talking to my daughter, I love you, this and that, giving her hugs, carrying her and whatnot. And I'm like, I've never seen my dad act this way with any of us or any of his previous grandkids. My daughter was his favorite grandchild.
Yeah.
She softened him up. And she was not the first girl either. Was she? Oh, yeah, she was the first girl. But so she softened him up. And it was a beautiful thing to experience. And those are memories that, I mean, I still have and I hope I never lose because, you know, I talk to my daughter about these things, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But that's a beautiful thing. But yeah, we're not used to that, bro. But we have to change that because
yeah.
our parents will tell you, well, I didn't have that. Their parents will tell you that they didn't have that. Well, at what point I stop making excuses and say, you know what? It stops right here.
Yep.
From this moment forward, anybody that crosses my path, my children, my next child, my grandchildren, whatever, I'm gonna tell them I love them, I appreciate them, and I'm gonna hug them every time I see them, or even on the phone. I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. Or I love you. I'll see you next week when your parents bring you, if they're your grandkids. We have to spread that love, bro.
I agree. I think that's gonna be like the two things: protect the children and spread the love. Like that's
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
That's, man, we could go on about that all day, I'm sure. So let's kind of like ring this in. So like the main focus of the podcast is also the main source of what I wrote my self-help guide, the Warrior Code, and the three main things that is empower, inspire, and unite. So I want you to kind of like, as we wrap this up, simulate what those three words mean to you and like how you kind of paint that picture in your own life to empower, inspire, and unite others around you, especially with the book and what have you. And just kind of, and before I had everyone speak about each word individually, but I feel like some of those are so close knit and the words are so similar in some ways. You can just wrap it up in a paragraph, what you think empower, inspire, unite means to you, and kind of like how you've chosen to take your life and answer your call to do this.
Look, plain and simple. If you are not following if you're not utilizing your gifts, your talents, right, and following your life's purpose, you have no power. You have none, because you are dependent on somebody else signing that check, right? And you are not dependent on what you're supposed to be doing here in this world that you have gotten the opportunity, right, to be a part of. So that's where the power is at. Now, as far as us making a difference, we can't do this by ourselves. So we have to partner up, collaborate with other individuals that are just like us. Because we have to find that family of individuals that are just like-minded like we are. Because this is a lonely road. But the moment you get two people together, we become unstoppable. Just by two people. Imagine what we can do with 4, with 8,
Right.
with 20 individuals that are like-minded. We can reach a lot more people and inspire a lot more people. So the book for me is to wake and trigger people to follow their purpose, their calling, and utilize their gifts by motivating and inspire them, and also finding more individuals that think like me so we can do more damage together. Because by myself, I can't reach a whole lot of people. But together, as we fit the pieces of the puzzle, answer the call with your amazing stories of the Warrior's Way, right? And you get another couple individuals and we unite, we become a very powerful force together. Singular, we're weak. Together, we're a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, no, I love that. And that's one thing like I struggled with too, is like realizing I can't do it by myself. It doesn't matter what it is and whatnot. I mean, some things you can learn from being with the wolves, but at the same time, it's like if you want to expand your conception of life and what have you have to do it with your circle, and you have to grow the size of that aura around your circle to provide that uniting factor for sure.
My father told me many years ago, and I really didn't understand it. And he used to tell me, be careful who you hang around with.
Yep.
My grandfather said that too. And I didn't really understand what that meant until I was older already. And I really understood it. Right. But the fact is that if you hang around with people that are hardworking, you will become a hard worker too.
Yep.
If you would, and you would hang around with lazy people, you become lazy. And this was what they were talking about. What we talk about is be careful who you hang around with. We're talking about influence, right? Or being destructive. We're not talking about lazy or hard workers. We're talking about influence and being destructive or not. Because the times have changed. Society has changed, and the world that we live in is much, much uglier than it was when they were here.
But they don't understand that because it looks better visually. Because how they're set up, what they see through their cell phones and computers, everything looks like it's a lot prettier than what it really is.
I don't watch the news, bro.
Yeah,
I haven't watched the news for 8, almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
I only see what comes through the feeds of Facebook and Instagram, or I go on YouTube somewhere on social media and I see something as a scrolling through it.
Right.
And I just look at the title because the title says a lot. And I'm obviously you see it from different sources, and like, I don't care about that. I'm focused on the positive. I'm focused on love, compassion, empathy. How can I change the world?
Yeah.
I can't change that. So for me to allow this to consume my life, it's going to drain me from the energy that I need to make a difference over here. So I'm not saying that I don't care about what happens, because I do, because I'm sympathetic to that. But if I can't control it, why am I even going to worry about it?
Yeah.
I can only worry about the things that I control.
Yep, it's huge.
Mother Teresa said, don't invite me to a protest. Invite me somewhere that we're talking about positivity, like a pro something.
Yeah.
Like we want to build whatever, a church, or we want to feed the homeless. Okay, that's fine. Let's do that. But don't call me to protest this, because you're feeding into the negative energy.
Yep.
And that's when I heard that, I'm like, wow, I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly my way of thinking. I just never really said it out loud before.
Yeah. It's either building your soul or stealing it.
Focus.
One of the two.
Focus that energy, bro.
That's for sure.
On the positive, not the negative, positive. What
Yep.
you're doing here, this is all positive. We're talking about all positive right now.
Yeah,
And the,
that's my whole goal is like I'm just trying to band people and videos and information together from other people that are like-minded. And like I've had a couple, they're like, well, how do you feel about this stuff you're talking about? I'm like, it's not really what I feel about right now. It's about bringing together other people who can say how they feel. So in the end, when I start talking about a lot of my ideas and visions and stuff, it all binds together. But I also want to touch base as I end these videos. There's always someone that's watching you that you don't have any idea that they're doing it, who are either inspired by you or drained by you, one of the two.
yep.
So that helps me in my head. It's like, okay, well, what if someone's literally paying more attention to me than I pay attention to me? And like my worst act is like their greatest day kind of thing. So like I always want to kind of touch base with that. And before we leave the video and go with that stuff. But aside from that, I think this has been a really good collected. We've done it quicker than we did last time, getting this information out. But where can they find you as well? If they're going online, where can I find George Gonzalez at?
I am mostly more active on Instagram, you know, at Jorge underscore V underscore Gonzalez. You know, that is where I put most of my content. I do daily quotes that they just come to me, and it's funny because I used to know things before, not realizing where it was coming from. I used to like, am I really that smart? Where are these words coming from? Where are these ideas coming from? Well, this was coming from God, from source, from the creator, from my higher self, whatever we want to call it. It's always been there. So I used to share other people's quotes and I add my 2 cents in it. But now I just put my own content on there because, I mean, this is powerful information. These are powerful words that could potentially change lives, which I've been told by several individuals that I'm like the Mexican Gary V. And you know what? When they said that at first, I started laughing. I'm like, you know what? I'll take that.
Right.
I'll put that badge of honor on. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? You know, but yeah. So I'm more heavily engaged in Instagram, so that's where they can find me. I try to put some videos up on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok also. I'm trying to use all of them, but mostly it's really Instagram. It's those daily quotes that are powerful that people reach out to me and say, George, you know what? I really needed that. I really needed that. And then those private messages that I changed their lives, I'm like, wow. This is when you know you have to keep doing it. When somebody tells you that, you know, and sometimes it may seem that not enough people like it, but when you get those comments and when you get those messages, bro, they make your day. You know, you have to keep doing it.
And bro, that's been like the key to me continuing this the whole time, is it's that one person that it speaks volume to versus the other ones that they feel like it's drowning them because they don't want to see the light of it. And it's like, do I want to piss off 99 people to set free one? Absolutely. It's one of those conundrums in life that we got to sword through and fight what's in front of us to make it happen. But I wholeheartedly agree.
Look, I truly appreciate the things and the words that you share on Instagram. I truly appreciate that. This is why I'm always, you know, putting something on your comment, little fire things on it when that.
Yeah.
Because it's fire, bro. It's positive. And we as more of us need to keep sharing more of that because they get so consumed for all the negative crap that's out there that they're taking in.
Right.
So if they double up, we need to double up.
Absolutely.
So I try to do 2 to 3 a day. Sometimes I do 5 a day because if at the end of the night I feel like, man, there's more garbage coming in, you know what? These words came in, I gotta put them out there. Because if I get some powerful quote and it's just there in my mind, and then in 10 minutes, if I don't put it down, it's gone. I will never remember that. I will never remember that again.
Dude, same here.
So it'll motivate me and it'll inspire me, but it's gone. You don't
Yep.
know. If it came to me and it motivated me and inspired me, I'm gonna share it with you and I'm gonna inspire you too. Because that's
Yeah.
what it's here for.
Yeah, we have to. If we don't write it down and denote it immediately, like our
Look,
brains are so fast in so many directions that it's gone. And it could be like the most mind-blowing thing ever that you've ever even thought or said to yourself. And then 5 minutes later, you try to recollect it, but you didn't write it down and it's gone. Just
you know what's really funny is that I get my best content when I'm in the damn shower, bro.
yeah, that's
But I
interesting.
take long showers,
Right,
right? I need a freaking marker and a freaking board that's freaking waterproof and whatever,
right,
or speak it to my Alexa or something or some device to write that shit down, bro. Because I get so much in the damn shower, bro. I could write a book in the freaking shower, bro.
right. Yeah, that's a lot of mine comes to me when I'm like being super physically active. Like I'm just
Oh yeah,
my body's
definitely.
going, like I'm in the gym or if I'm working in my shop, like that's like all these ideas start flowing. 'Cause I don't know if it's like a blood flow thing, but it's like, holy smokes, I gotta do all this stuff. Now I gotta stop just to write this stuff down.
But let me give me some advice, bro, and hopefully everybody else there that watches this video at some point pays attention. Don't stop. Never, ever, 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 ever stop the flow of ideas, the flow of knowledge, and the flow of wisdom.
Yep.
Because the moment you stop the flow or try to decrease it, bro, lost it, man. And I say this humbly because I did the freaking mistake of doing that in the past.
Yep.
Now, when I pray and I ask for God, I ask Him to open the floodgates. And I apologize for silencing what He was trying to give me before. But I was such in bad psychological position at that point because I was going through so
Yep.
much that I just couldn't deal with all that because I didn't know what to do with it. I wasn't writing stuff down and whatnot. And now I was like, I'm like, okay, well, let me inspire people more. I was like, okay, what am I gonna say? That's not the way it flows. You gotta let it flow and okay, that's great. Boom, let me write that down. You can't just sit there and say, okay, what do I write? What do I write? It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
That's not
I
real.
think once we build that habit, it makes overcoming anxiety so much easier too. And like that's one of my biggest hardships. It's like because to me, like anxiety is just the inner channel of your soul trying to expel itself into the real world. Like I don't want to medicate that. I don't want to shut that down. And like you said, it's like our psychological times in that moment we're kind of blockading the flow of those ideas and that anxiety sparks because we weren't taking
I'm
advantage of those ideas.
I'm still kind of fighting
Yeah.
my light side to my dark side. So
Yep.
I'm still kind of fighting those, right? I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to offend anybody, but at the same time, I got to be truthful and I got to say what's coming. So I have a pure heart. So I know what I say doesn't come with bad intent. But there's times when I get something, damn, that seems a little dark, right? So I'll still write it down and I'll save it and I'll keep for days. And I'm like, okay, there's a reason God gave this to me.
Yeah.
Somebody must need to read this. Yesterday, I put a quote that said, just because I chose peace does not mean that my protectors in the spiritual world are not eager to go to war to protect me. So that came to me 4 days ago, but I didn't post it till yesterday. So when I read it back the first time I wrote it down, I'm like, oh, well, that's a little more on the dark side. Should I really say that? But at the
Yeah.
same time, I'm like, this is the truth. I know who protects me. I know that. And I know I'm protected. I have dad around me. I have my grandparents around me. I have my ancestors around me. I have God around me. I have my angels around me. I know who protects me. So if this is what I'm being told to write, then this is what I'm being told to share. And that's an internal struggle that I go through sometimes. I get a lot of these, but these are more like warrior type of war kind of things,
Yeah.
you know, but at the same time, You have the good side, you have the bad side, and we can't ignore either one of them. They have to coexist.
Yep.
But what if that one somebody triggered? It's like, oh shit. So why am I really worried if I know I got people protecting me? Really, you don't know how that's gonna go.
Yeah.
So that's the internal part that I struggle with sometimes. But
Yeah, I think that's mutual between a lot of people, especially the ones that are spiritually kind of intact and are digging to find that. I mean, I think that's super relatable. I don't think a lot of people know how to put words to it like that, though, which I think makes that clip croppable, which will probably get put on Instagram alone. I mean, that's big. I mean, you have to let your demons and your angels harness each other.
I actually thought my daughter was going to get mad at me for putting that out there, because it might have been too dark based off who I am
Right.
and what I'm trying to. But she liked it because she knows it to be true.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very spiritual. I mean, I was raised Catholic, but I'm more spiritual than I am religious.
Same here.
I believe religion tries to control you. In spirituality, you're just free, right? I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe in my angels. I believe in the Virgin Mary. These are the things that I believe in.
Right.
But sometimes things might get a little dark. And I thought my daughter was going to call me on it. And she said she liked it. I was like, okay, that means because she's also very spiritual too. We don't want to be controlled. We want to be inspired and motivated, not be scared into submission. And I think a lot of the times people try to scare us into submission, and that's not cool.
Yeah.
God don't want me to fear him. He wants me to honor him and be inspired and motivated by him.
Right.
I'm coming from love, contribution, and compassion and empathy. That's what I'm coming with. I'm not coming with ill intent. That's not what I'm doing. So how can I be doing something that he doesn't want me to do? It just doesn't fit well.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes it comes with a sword and a shield. Sometimes it comes with a hug and a kiss. Just depends on your situation, 100%.
Well, we cannot claim to be God's warriors,
right,
and afraid to go to war for him.
Yep.
Not to hurt people, but for him and protect his people, his God's people.
Right.
Some of us are going to have to fight at some point. And I don't mean to fight physically, but I mean fighting. I mean, we have to roll up the sleeves.
Yeah.
God gave me a task, and I'm here to make sure that I'm doing it. And I'm gonna feel the punches, because people are gonna attack me. They're gonna talk bad about me. They're gonna make lies about me. They're gonna do all this other stuff. But I'm here. I'm gonna take the punches. I'm in the front lines of it. We both are the front lines of it.
You just summed everything up. That's crazy, because it used to be called God's Warriors Unite. And then I rebranded it to a Warriors Way to give it a little more branding to it. But yeah,
well,
I couldn't have said this any better.
With the title of my book too, I mean, it's more universal.
Right. Yep.
I mean, I don't talk about my spiritual beliefs with people, but I'm also not afraid to talk about them in a conversation. I'm not afraid of that. But that's not the agenda that I'm pushing. I'm pushing your gifts, your talents, and your life's purpose. We all should be doing that, right? I'm not talking to you about religion and this. I'm not telling you what to believe.
Right.
I'm telling you this is what he gave you. What are you gonna do about it? Because as easy as he gave them to you, he'll take them away.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's big. Well, we've definitely hit a lot of hammers on the heads here today. And I appreciate you getting on this podcast and having a conversation.
I hope everybody that sees this enjoys it. Obviously with the things you talk about, the things I talk about, we bring those together. I mean, it's just a powerful message combined, bro. And I appreciate you, brother.
Really absolutely. All right, George. Well, I'll put all your information below in the video and everything, so they know where they can find you and have you. But other than that, let's keep quoting it up on Instagram, changing lives and answering their calls. All right.
You got it, brother. You take care, man.
I appreciate it. Yep.
See ya. All righty. See ya. Bye.
Let's bring this in up here. All right. So George is a very special guy doing a lot of special things. So I hope you check him out. Give him a look on Instagram, wherever you may find him. Gonna take a swig of my ripple bottle. Every bottle sold built wells. It's huge. In underdeveloped countries who can't get clean drinking water. This company, Ripple, has changed the game. Every time that we take a sip in the homes of our comfortable drinking environments, we help build them wells. We help give them lives. We help give them hope, inspiration, inspire these kids to overcome the underdeveloped situations that they live through. It's an amazing thing. Also, check out Candles by Cass, concrete candles and Cass. These things are pretty cool. They're all natural, and it's a really cool cement work that she does too. But other than that, I appreciate you guys watching. Check us out on the Warriors Way on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. The website's a warriorsway.org, and we have the Warrior Code coming out really soon, which is a self-help guide that I wrote, and it's hopefully going to be very impactful as I wrote it to be. Other than that, God bless. Thank you.